The Adventures of Pilot Pete by Peter Weber. The first time Pete ever saw an airplane, he was 5 years old. As he waited to board that first flight with his mom and his little brother Jack, he could barely contain his excitement. Soon, Pete knew that he would take his seat, and the plane would fly, with him in it, high into the sky. But before they could board, the pilots would have to prepare. Pete knew this was called the pre-flight check. The pilots would inspect the airplane and program the flight computer. The captain would sign some official documents and wait for the passengers to board. Finally, it was time to board. Once on the plane, Pete hoped to get a look at the controls in the cockpit. He was so excited that he ran up the aisle to greet the captain. But the captain was no stranger. It was Pete's dad. And he had gifts for his two sons, pilot wings. Pete, I have a special surprise for you. If you promise to buckle your seatbelt before takeoff, Pete's father said. What is it, Dad? I'll let you visit the cockpit. Awesome! And there's one more thing. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captor Peter speaking. We have a special guest with us this morning. Pete, it's all yours. Welcome aboard this Boeing 747. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the flight. My dad says it's a beautiful day to fly. From that day on, Pete knew he wanted to be a pilot when he grew up. He was going to do whatever it took to be like his dad, safely flying people to all parts of the world. As he grew older, his passion for flying grew as well. When Pete was in high school, he started a rocketry club. Our rocket has been designed to fly to an altitude of 750 feet and return to the ground in 45 seconds. It will be carrying a payload of 2 eggs that it must return unharmed. The club even went to the Team America Rocketry Challenge, the nation's largest rocket competition, where they placed fourth. When Pete got to college, he officially began flight training at his aviation school. Pete will never forget his very first day of training. He was a little nervous, but his special flight bag gave him strength and pride. Many years earlier, it had belonged to his father and went everywhere with him. It had carried all of his father's important checklists and manuals. On that first day of training, as he admired all the airplanes, Pete was stopped by an instructor with white hair and a white mustache. The man's name was Cliff. Cliff stopped Pete because he saw a big 747 sticker on Pete's flight bag. You know, said Cliff, I used to fly 747s all the time for UPS. I can help you learn. That would be great, Pete said. My dream is to fly 747s, just like my dad. Cliff offered to train Pete and become his mentor. Cliff showed Pete his hangar and coached him through ground lessons. Soon, Pete was applying everything he learned in the air, with Cliff there to help him. Becoming a pilot was hard work, but he loved every second of it. He studied every night for his lessons the next day. Pete wanted to be the most prepared pilot in the sky. To become a licensed pilot, Pete would have to get Cliff's approval, then pass an oral exam on regulations and theories of flight. After that, Pete would have to demonstrate his skills to the examiner in the air. Finally, after almost 2 years of hard work, Pete earned his private pilot's license, instrument rating, multi engine rating, commercial license, and then a big one, a commercial multi engine rating. That would allow him to fly a 747. But it would take more hard work before he could get hired to fly those large commercial airplanes. Soon, Pete got his first job, flying small jets called Hawker 700s. He gained valuable piloting experience. Pete flew Hawker 700s for 2 years and learned everything about them. He knew he was getting closer to his dream, but he wasn't there yet. Finally, after a lifetime of hard work, Pete got hired by the same airline his dad flew for, United Airlines. Pete became a first officer. His dream had come true. Pete's mom and dad flew with him on one of his first flights as a major commercial airline pilot. It was something none of them would ever forget. Years later, as Pete was in the cockpit for another flight, a little girl would run up to him. It was Pete's daughter, Aurora. Daddy, can I be a pilot like you someday? If you truly love something, and if you work hard at it for a long time, my love, you can do anything.